Good morning, folks. JB here with you live on WFLA Now, about to launch across all platforms. Believe that we're live already on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, as well as on YouTube Live. Hello, good morning to our YouTube audience. We are awaiting a courtroom feed from Fairfax County, Virginia. That's when we're going to begin our live stream. We're going to get started here in just a moment. Once that feed actually does make its way through, of course, satellite communications, makes its way to the newsrooms that we have across the country, including ours here in Tampa, Florida. We've got Peter Tragos on standby, the lawyer you know as well, going to be answering your questions here live this morning as we get into a little bit behind when we might get a verdict. He already tweeted out a prediction, a little bit of a prediction that I just caught on Twitter a moment ago. We're going to get into some of your comments, your questions, so stand by, folks. We're about to get started again, waiting for a courtroom feed out of Fairfax County, Virginia. We'll be right back here on WFLA Now.
WFLA Now will begin momentarily. WFLA Now will begin momentarily. Live on WFLA Now, this is Hey JB. Here's JB Buno.
The jury begins its first full day of deliberations with all eyes on a verdict in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. We're going to go over the likelihood of a verdict being reached today and the impact of the three-day holiday weekend on the jury that will be determining whether or not they're going to be ruling in favor of Johnny Depp or Amber Heard. Hey there, folks. JB Buno here with you live on WFLA Now. Good to have you with us on stream, and let's get right over to our featured guest here this morning. Joining us right here from the Tampa Bay area. I don't have to say joining us from across the country. He's joining us from right here in Tampa Bay. It's Peter Tragos, the lawyer. Tagging him, of course, on all of our social media platforms. Good morning to you, Peter. Welcome back to our stream. We had you, of course, on last week. Great to have you back on. You put out on Twitter, let's get right into it. You put out on Twitter a short time ago a little bit of a prediction as to whether or not we're going to get a verdict today. We do know that the jury has now entered into the deliberation room to begin its first full day of deliberations. Where's your feeling on this? Are we getting a verdict on this today, or is this expected to drag on for a while?
So my prediction initially, based on a case of this length, and we have reports that there are over 5 hours of recordings for this jury to review, it would be really tough for anybody that predicted that we would have a verdict Friday. I realize they don't want to come back after the holiday weekend. They've missed a lot of work, but that is near impossible to have a verdict on Friday. So I said they were going to take at least a day with this, probably somewhere between 1 and 3 days has been my prediction. So I guess the most likely point would either be tonight, if this jury wants to, I don't want to say rush it, but if they want to get it done and stop missing work and get their lives back to some normalcy, maybe they ask to stay late tonight, which they can indicate to the judge we're getting close and we feel like it'll be beneficial for us to stay late tonight or tomorrow. Those are kind of the points that I think it's most likely we get a verdict. If it lasts longer than tomorrow and into day 3, because the first day was a half day, now there's no telling how long this is going to take. We will be just on real verdict watch, and we will see if we start inching closer to a hung jury, which a lot of people have predicted, and a lot of legal voices have predicted in the media that this is a case that might just have a hung jury if they've got a stalwart juror on each side, one for Amber, one for Johnny. That could result in a hung jury, and the longer it lasts, the more likely that is. Yeah,
I don't think anybody out there wants there to be a hung jury. I don't think anybody out there wants there to be a mistrial, but of course that is on the table as a potential outcome. I want to ask you about this 3-day Memorial Day holiday weekend. Peter, I hope you had a good Memorial Day weekend with family and enjoying some quality time. I'm sure it was similar for jurors, correct? I mean, we're talking about these jurors who have now endured hearing all of this testimony, hearing the presentations of all of this evidence over these last several weeks, and now we get to this point where a verdict is hopefully in the not-too-distant future, and a 3-day holiday weekend is here with the Memorial Day weekend that just passed. So what kind of impact does that have on the jury, in your opinion?
Well, I'm not sure if it was the same for you, JB, or anybody else out there, but I had kind of 2 different celebrations, one with extended family, one with friends. And I would say 3 out of every 4 people I talked to asked me about this case, brought up this case, talked about this case. So what do you think it's like for the jurors? If anybody knows they're on a jury, which I mean, if you were out of work for 6 weeks, JB, we all would know that you were on the jury. So it's not a surprise to a lot of these people that are friends or family members of these jurors to know that they're on the jury, even if they're playing by the rules and not talking about the case. But how hard would it have been for them to get through their Memorial Day celebrations without talking about the case? That's something to think about. I hope they did. I hope they did not talk about the case with anybody. I hope they didn't look at anybody or at anything. But when they come back, there's no doubt they had to re-review the jury instructions and the verdict forms and everything we reviewed on Friday. So they're going to take at least a couple hours this morning, I would think, and go over everything again to make sure they know what they're supposed to be doing, the way they're supposed to do it, what the rules are, and kind of reset this morning because of the long break that they won't have to do every morning this week.
Can you imagine, I can hear it in your voice, Peter, can you imagine being a juror? You're the only one, really, being a juror, you're the only one that can't talk about this trial over the holiday weekend. Everybody across America and maybe even around the world talking about the trial itself and talking about Johnny Depp, talking about Amber Heard, and these 7, and then plus, I believe the alternate jurors too, they're also instructed to not speak about it as well. So then the alternates as well, they cannot talk about it. And how difficult is that for a juror, especially when you're around family and friends? I mean, I would imagine if it were me, I'm a chatterbox, so I'm sure you are too. You want to talk about these things. You want to talk what's on, the tip of everyone's tongues, and it's just, I would imagine it's extremely difficult.
I mean, it's near impossible, I would say.
Yeah.
For someone like myself who knows the rules, who has to implore on jurors to follow these rules in other trials, it would be hard for me. I think I'd be able to do it, but it would be hard for me. So for somebody that may not, I don't want to say take the rules seriously, but may not think it's a big deal if they tell their wife or their cousin a little bit about it. Their cousin's not going to say anything to mainstream media. Why can't I tell my cousin, oh man, it was tough. She said this or he said that, or I didn't believe this person. It's really tough not to let anything out about the case. If it were me, I probably would have gone away with my wife and my kids, stayed in a hotel or something and maybe talked to my wife about it, but nobody else, and not even give myself the temptation for all these people to come up and talk to me about it, which is what happened to me. And, it'd be really difficult not to talk about this case when literally everybody else, and it is around the world, JB, for sure. The UK and Australia, there's almost as many people in my streams from those 2 countries as there are from the United States.
Hello to everybody, by the way, joining us from the UK and Australia. Peter Tragos, lawyer right here in the Tampa Bay area. JB Buno here with you live. What we're going to start to do in a moment is go over your hashtag HeyJB questions and comments. You can also use hashtag lawyer. We're going to start to feature them on screen. If you're wondering where the courtroom feed is, we don't have one. Reason being is because they're just not feeding out anything where there's no action right now in the courtroom. They zoom in on that emblem, that Virginia emblem, but there's no point in really feeding out something when really we don't know how long this is going to go on. This is something that could go on for hours and hours and hours, or potentially even longer than that as far as into the week itself. But if you want to have your comment featured on screen, use hashtag HeyJB. It's in the yellow stripes underneath each of our names, hashtag HeyJB or hashtag lawyer. Final question about the impact of the weekend, Peter. How impossible is it to avoid media coverage and all of the, that's another part about this as well. The jury isn't really supposed to be exposing themselves to media coverage of the trial itself, correct? So it's nearly impossible for them to turn on their TVs or scroll on their news feeds at home and not see something about the trial.
Whether it's WFLA, Fox,
Yep.
CNN, ESPN, they've all mentioned something about it. They all have segments on it. They all mention it. It's worked into their whatever they're discussing because everybody's talking about this trial. And even worse, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. It's all over all of the social media platforms. So it's impossible to turn on your phone or your TV without seeing something about this case. And the other major thing that I thought was interesting, before the judge sent them for their initial deliberations on Friday, she said, maybe don't take an initial vote. Don't take a really strong stance where you can't be convinced or discuss the evidence as a juror, which is unusual because usually that's the first thing they do when they go back. They take an initial vote and they work from there, because if it's 6-1 or 5-2 or 4-3 or 7-0, that can make a big difference as to how the discussions go. But I think because of this long weekend, she didn't want anybody to dig in. She wanted everybody to stay open-minded, come back on Tuesday and discuss the evidence and see if they can come to a unanimous decision at some point this week.
keeping my eyes peeled here, folks, on our Facebook comment section, on our YouTube comment section. Let me just pass this along really quickly because I'm sure others felt the same way. Michelle Hernandez in our comment section saying, #HJB almost had a heart attack. I thought the verdict was reached. Yeah, let's make this very, very clear. We're here with you this morning. We're on verdict watch, as are newsrooms really across the country, awaiting word that a Johnny Depp Amber Heard verdict has been reached. You know what's interesting about this, too, is that Johnny Depp and Amber Heard are likely nearby. They're not at the courthouse. We've been told, right? Isn't that correct, Peter? You're also hearing the same thing. They haven't made the trip to the courthouse at all this morning, correct?
Correct. And I'm actually hearing Johnny Depp is not planning on being there for the verdict. Now, I've heard mixed reports that maybe neither of them will be there, maybe both of them will be there, but recently it sounds like Amber Heard will be there, Johnny Depp won't, and he made an appearance, I guess, at some concert playing guitar at the Beck concert or something somewhere else. So people are starting to say maybe he's not going to come back for the verdict, but we'll see.
He doesn't have any legal obligation to be there, is that correct?
Correct.
So Amber Heard planning to be there, Johnny Depp, I suppose we'll see, makes a little bit more sense when you saw his reaction, Peter, on Friday when he was hugging members of his team. Also, as he exited the courthouse, he was shaking hands of the court officers. He was, of course, waving to the crowd. Yes, that's standard, but it was just a little bit different. Perhaps that was his exit and him saying farewell to the trial. I'm sure we will find out. But there is no courtroom feed right now for everybody to watch. The jury is in the jury deliberation room. So what will happen when a verdict is actually reached? There will start to be some pieces in motion, so to speak, and you'll start to see people start to file back into the courtroom. You'll start to see Amber Heard's team start to make their way transportation-wise from their location to the courtroom itself. Johnny Depp's lawyers, Camille Vasquez, their attorneys, of course, making their way to the courtroom. So we in the media will get a little bit of a heads up as to when a verdict is reached. And here on WFLA Now, we'll be able to launch live across all of our platforms. We'll be live on Facebook Live. We'll be live on YouTube Live, and be able to let you know if, in fact, they do reach a verdict, what that verdict is. Let's not forget, folks, we are talking about a situation where a hung jury is possible. No one wants to hear those two words. The two words they don't want to hear right now, Peter, is hung jury and mistrial. Those words are they're going to be banned from our comment section for as spam. No one wants to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it. Let's get to this comment. Yeah, Michelle, I did see this over the weekend. #HJB, Johnny played with Jeff Beck in England over the weekend. Peter, doesn't sound like Johnny's all that worried.
Either that, or he's done what he came to do. And that's kind of the feeling I'm getting is, regardless of what this verdict is, we've talked about it a lot, the difference between the court of public opinion and the court of law. He has won in the court of public opinion. People are behind him. Redemption is coming. Maybe we see him in Beetlejuice. But no matter what you say, at this point, it seems like the burden has been lifted from Johnny and he got what he came for in this trial. That's what it feels like. Now, whether or not that's true, who knows? But that's what it feels like.
As we start now to get into your comments, folks, we're going to start to really rapid fire through these #HeyJB, #LawyerYouKnow questions and comments out of our YouTube Live and Facebook Live comment sections. We're going to try to get to as many of those comments as possible. I want to let you know as well that we do have our interactive poll. You can click on the link in the description on this video. No sign up required, no email, anything. It's a one-click simple poll. It takes on average 6 seconds to vote in our poll. And it's the same poll from last week. And the results, as far as who won Depp versus Heard, believe me, folks, it's exactly as one-sided as you think it is based on the comment section. I've seen a whole lot of Team Johnny won, JD for the win, JD FTW in our comment section. And really, I got to be honest, as a social media anchor, I'm not seeing all that much support for Amber Heard. But if there is support for Amber Heard in our comment section, please, we'd like to spotlight your comments. We're going to start to do so with #HJB and #LawyerYouKnow. Let's get to this one from Josephine. Hello, Josephine. Thanks for joining us this morning. #HJB. If the jurors find for one or the other, is the financial also going to be the 50 or 100 million? Peter, let's talk about that. What are the possible outcomes? When the verdict is read, and we do get a verdict, provided it's not one of those words that we mentioned earlier. If we do, in fact, have a definitive verdict for one side or the other, what will the verdict sound like coming from the jury, and how do the finances then come into play?
So last night in my stream, we went through the actual verdict form. There are a series of questions the jury has to answer yes to even get to the money. If they get to the money damages, it's broken down in two sets: compensatory damages and punitive damages. The punitive damages are the damages to punish the other person, and that is capped at $350,000. But the compensatory damages are fair damages to compensate the victim, right? So that can literally be any number from $1 to $1 trillion. Now, if it's $1, that's a moral victory, but not really a financial victory. If it's $1 trillion, it's very likely the judge, who can't step in and overturn the verdict, but she can step in and say, I'm going to limit that to a reasonable number, which is $50 million, which is what Johnny Depp asked for, or Amber Heard, to $100 million. So she can actually limit the amount of money while not overturning the verdict. But the jury can pick any number they think is fair for the compensatory damages part of the verdict.
So it's not just as simple, Peter, as determining, such as in a criminal case, it's guilty, not guilty, and sometimes there's lesser included. It can get a little bit complicated when it comes to a criminal case, of course. But this one, you're trying to assign a number value in relation to your verdict. Could that also extend things? Could that make this a longer process? Well, I mean, in the jury deliberation room, Peter, they have to come to a determination as to really which team is in the room, which side of the equation the room is in favor for, and then they have to assign that number. Is that correct?
Yeah, liability and damages. Who loses first, and then how much? That's always the difficult part of these civil trials, and most of the cases I end up trying. You would think, right? We ask for $1 million, they either give zero or $1 million. If the defense says zero, we ask for $1 million, but it's never that. They come up with $693,000.73. We have no idea how they get there half the time, but they come up with what they think is a reasonable number for a verdict. So and this wasn't really hashed out, in my opinion, that well in this case to give them a number. It was like $23 million for Pirates 6. You know, we heard $7 million for the divorce settlement, which a lot of people on my channel say that seems like a fair number, but that's not connected to any damages in the case. So really, it can be whatever the jury feels is a fair number based on the evidence that they heard. They don't have to break down and say, we're paying them for Pirates, we're paying them for Fantastic Beasts. They don't have to break that down.
Or is it possible that movie titles are being brought up in the jury deliberation room? Are they mentioning Pirates? Are they mentioning Fantastic Beasts? Is that part of the equation for them, you think?
I think they have to. What are the damages? Did Amber Heard lose Aquaman 2 or 3? Did Johnny Depp lose Pirates 6 because of this? Did he lose Fantastic Beasts? Did he lose the indie film? I think they have to bring up those specific things in order to connect them to the compensatory damages, because that's these two parties' jobs.
Very interesting. It's a unique trial. It's not often that A-list celebrities are involved in a trial of this magnitude with this scope and size and under the microscope as much as this trial has been. Let's get to some of the other questions coming in. Bridget O'Brien, hashtag JB, hashtag lawyer. You know, this whole thing is pretty ridiculous. I think both of them are crazy, but I still believe Johnny more than Amber. Have her lawyers ever won trials before? They seem so disorganized, is the comment here from Bridget. I think it's pretty evident, Peter, that Amber Heard is not going to hire an attorney who's never won a court case before. There's no doubt that each legal team has, I'm sure, accolades, and I'm sure that they are highly respected in, of course, legal circles. But when it comes to, I think we went over letter grades on the last stream. I believe that you gave Amber Heard's team, if I remember correctly, was a C+, correct? I
think so, yeah. And Johnny Depp's an A-.
Right. And so let me just ask you, with the 3-day holiday weekend passing, I know you've talked about it with family and friends. Do you still feel good about those letter grades? A- for Johnny Depp's legal team and C+ for Amber Heard's?
Yeah, I feel good about those.
And what do you make of This is Bridget's comment calling them disorganized. Amber Heard's team. That's not the first time I've seen words such as scrambled, disorganized. I've seen a lot of terms associated to them not really having as much of their ducks in a row as Johnny Depp's team. I've seen a lot of words like this thrown around in our comment section. Do you agree with what Bridget's saying here?
Yeah, I think parts of it were disorganized or scrambled, definitely, or unorganized. And I think sometimes that actually is a strategy of defendants and cases. If the jury can't get a good timeline and can't put together all the pieces, maybe they just say the plaintiff didn't prove their case because the plaintiff, in fact, has the burden. So that is a strategy sometimes for defendants. I'm not sure it was here because it really seemed like Amber Heard and her team were trying to also prove a case, even though, I mean, obviously the counterclaim, but they were also trying to prove Johnny Depp was, in fact, a perpetrator of domestic violence. So it didn't seem like that was their strategy, but I have seen it at times purposely used, the unorganized kind of legal strategy.
Peter, I want to be very mindful of your time. I know that we're coming up on 9:30 Eastern time. I think that our stream, I don't know if we were expecting this many people to be joining us on this stream. I think it just goes to show how many people are just so anxious for a verdict in this case. We've got a lot of folks joining us, about 10 or so thousand on YouTube. I think we've got about 20 or so thousand joining us on Facebook. But I want to be very mindful of your time because I told you I would get you out of here by 9:30.
I'm good. I'm good for about another 10 minutes.
Okay, let's do
it. So I'm good for another 10 minutes if you want to answer a few more questions, and then I'll bounce out and take my call at 9:45.
Sounds great. Peter, let me ask you this question that came up on our last stream. People were asking about in droves. I mean, this is the number one question that people were asking me. You weren't on our stream at the time. This was Friday around 5 o'clock when the jury kind of ended for the day. The judge announced the jury was going to be ending for the day. People were asking about the chances of perjury charges for Amber Heard, given what has transpired and in this case. What do you make of the calls for perjury charges against Amber Heard, and what's the likelihood that actually happens?
Not likely, I would say. And I've given a speech about how frustrating it is when in civil trials, witnesses don't seem to care about reneging on what they said in depositions or changing their testimonies, and it just doesn't happen very often. Now, this is an unusual case with an unusual amount of eyes on it, so it's more likely that something would come of this that wouldn't come from one of my cases, for an example. I've also heard in the UK and Australia she's potentially being investigated for perjury charges. I think it's unlikely because she doesn't say things definitively enough. She says, oh, I wasn't sure about these two pictures, or yeah, she never actually went back and said some of the claims like the bottle incident. She never went back and said, oh, that's actually not true. She didn't admit lying. So I think it would actually be a difficult perjury case to prove because you don't have, you have some inconsistent statements, but not necessarily direct lies that you can prove, as much as everybody, wants to say that in the comments, and the same thing are coming in my comments and videos. I think it would be a difficult perjury case to prove at this point because she has kind of been vague and danced around it. Usually perjury, you've got to be pretty direct in proving that they were lying, in fact. And I think this civil burden of greater weight of the evidence is nowhere near beyond a reasonable doubt that they would have to prove that she was lying. That's
kind of what I tried to say on Friday, but Peter is just so much better when it comes to the legal terminology. Of course, him being the lawyer, folks, I want to, before I forget, I have to do this. If you did not catch, Peter, when did you do that stream? And you know the one I'm talking about. When did you do it?
The reason I'm just rocking the stash today is because Saturday night, we talked about it early in the trial. If we hit 100,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is The Lawyer You Know, go check it out. If we hit 100,000 subscribers during the trial, I would actually dress up like Jack Sparrow, because everybody was saying, I assume because of the hair, I look like Jack Sparrow, and I ended up wearing a wig, so I'm not really sure how much the hair matters. But I glued those two, beard braids in, full getup. There was a subscriber that sent me the costume. I had a friend do the makeup, the whole nine. Couldn't get the beard glue out, so I had to end up shaving it this weekend. But yeah, Saturday night, Jack Sparrow answered questions about the Depp v. Heard trial on my channel if you want to check it out. It was funny.
Someone DM'd me the picture. They screenshotted you on the live stream, and it took me a moment, a good 5 seconds to realize what I was looking at because, guys, you should see how much Peter looks like Jack Sparrow when he is 100% done up in all the makeup. It was... Go check out his live stream. You won't be disappointed as far as a Jack Sparrow lookalike, a doppelganger, giving legal analysis of a trial was kind of something I was never really expecting. That was it was a good piece of fun.
One-time thing.
Yeah, Jessica August, hashtag HJB. Thanks for always being there, keeping us informed as this unfolds. What don't come out in the wash comes out in the rinse. Thank you for watching, Jessica. Ruth Reyes says, hashtag HJB. Who do you think got it, Depp or Heard? I say Depp. So let me explain this really quickly. We do so many of these streams, and people ask me all the time, what's my opinion of it? It's not my job to give an opinion. My job is to be here for you, be a reflection of your comments, to answer some questions and comments, explain the stories that we cover. I'm not here to give an opinion or tell you who I think won or lost, but I can ask Peter. Peter, when this verdict is read, I think we did go over this on the last stream, but when this verdict is read, what's your anticipation that it's going to be?
I think Johnny Depp's going to win something. I think there are ways to split the baby on this verdict, and he has 3 counts of defamation. If he wins 1, they can put any number amount on that. That's what I would expect, but it is far from a slam dunk or sure thing. It is far from the 98% that all of the community polls are showing. It is far closer than that, I think. But if I had to put a bet on it, I would think that Johnny Depp is going to come out ahead. If I was a juror, I would rule in favor for Johnny Depp on the title of the op-ed being defamatory and being not true. That's the big ticket, is the question of, is this false, and did she know it was false? So that's where I feel most comfortable coming down on Johnny's side. And I'd be really surprised if Amber Heard won her counterclaim. I do think she's going to lose that counterclaim.
Raina Day on YouTube Live, hashtag HJB. Could this trial go further with appeals?
Yes.
It's as simple as that, right? Is it a virtual certainty that no matter the outcome, it's going to be appealed?
I think if Johnny wins on one claim and wins for $1, they both may be okay with that. I do. Really? I think Amber Heard may say it's over. I don't agree with the jury's verdict. He still did that to me, but like I said throughout the trial, leave me alone. Let me move on with my life. If it's $50 million or $25 million, she's going to appeal it. If Johnny Depp loses, he may appeal it. I mean, I don't know. I feel like he has won in the court of public opinion, and this trial went about as well for Johnny Depp as it possibly could have. So bringing it a second time, the money, the time, the chance it doesn't go as well, I don't know. I would bet the good money is on an appeal is going to happen, regardless of verdict.
We've got a comment here. Theo saying, hashtag HJB Depp for the win from South African supporters. I mean, international attention this trial has received. I mean, it's pretty wild. But you know what? It just goes to show that film and cinema really does reach an international audience, and people, love the characters that are brought on screen. And that's around the world. It just really goes to show that it's not something that is exclusive to us being an American audience. Elizabeth Wheeler, hashtag JB. How long can they have to reach a verdict, and what if they can't reach a verdict? From Liz joining us from the UK. I'm going to take Elizabeth's question and kind of morph it into this one, because I think I know what she's asking. How long is this going to go on before the judge says, hey, are we going to get to a verdict or what? I mean, if this goes on into Wednesday, into Thursday, will the judge eventually say something to the effect of, what's the deadline on time for them to come to a decision, Peter?
So usually judges don't rush verdicts.
Right.
Usually it's the opposite.
But
the jury comes back and says, there's got to be
a limit of some kind, because the court system...
As long as the jury says we're working towards a verdict, good things are happening, we're progressing, I would be shocked if the judge cut it off. Shocked, even if it took a week or 2 weeks. If they say we're working slowly through the jury instructions, we're working slowly through the evidence, there was 6 weeks of trial, we want to go through every piece before we make our verdict, I think the judge would let them keep going.
Wow.
Now, eventually, obviously, she'd have to cut it off, but what more likely happens is after 2 or 3 days, they say, we've got 2 people, 1 on each side, neither of them are going to change their mind. Can we just be done with this, judge? And the judge says the opposite, saying, no. Go back in there. It's your job to come up with a verdict. Please work hard for it. It's your duty. A lot of money and time was spent on this. Please try to come up with a verdict, work together. And that's more likely what happens, that the judge pushes them to talk more about it versus cutting them off and saying it's over. But at some point she would, of course.
Right. It's it's fascinating from a perspective. Now, how long did this trial go on for? Was this 5
6
weeks?
weeks.
6 weeks. 6 weeks. So
Plus a break, so 7 weeks total.
7 weeks total. Right. So you don't want there to be a rushed verdict when there was all of this testimony, all of this evidence presented, and of course, with all the attention and the scrutiny that has been associated with that attention, you'd like for them to come across a verdict at some point. Karen saying, #AJB, I listened to a podcast, and the person was talking about Johnny wanting the public to hear his story so that the media couldn't put their twist on it. He wanted cameras in the courtroom. Smart move. Cameras in the courtroom. This is something that I'm calling up some court systems right now to ask about whether or not there's live access to particular courtrooms for particular trials that we're covering. And being able to have courtroom access, it just opens it up to the enormity, really the world. It's really unprecedented, Peter. Now, I mean, look, 30, 40 years ago, you can get television cameras in there, but now with live streaming, people can follow every single development inside that courtroom. What do you make of Karen's comment here?
So first thing, Karen, you didn't just have to listen to the podcast. Johnny Depp literally said that on the stand, and his lawyers argued it in the courtroom that this is what he wanted to do. So you're right about that. Cameras in the courtroom are very interesting. I think one of the rubs, I would love it. I think it'd be very interesting to be able to watch these trials, for people in the public to be able to learn what the justice system is like, maybe not be as scared of it, understanding what their rights are. That's one of the big things we do on our channel, is explaining what your rights are, explaining how the justice system works. So if you ever come across it on the criminal side or the civil side, you're equipped with the knowledge to understand how it works. But people's lives, their medical records, psychiatric records, their dirty laundry, a lot of times they do not want that aired and so easily accessible to the public. It's one thing if somebody wants to come to the courtroom and watch. It's another thing to broadcast it to millions of people. So a lot of normal clients, non-celebrity clients. Now this stuff, we heard all the articles throughout the trial that both of them were mentioned in, talking about their dirty laundry. For Joe Smith, who's just a worker at some restaurant in the Tampa Bay area, he's probably not going to want everybody to look at his medical records and his psychiatric records and talk about, the injuries he sustained or what he did in this case or that case. So that's kind of the rub against it, is some normal people don't want their lives broadcast, streamed to millions of people.
Yeah, it's unprecedented access to every single solitary moment, not even moments that are in the spotlight. There are people who are zooming in on sections of the courtroom to look at facial expressions, eyebrow twitches,
behavioral
writing.
analysts.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I don't know if I've ever watched a court case get put under the microscope as much as this one has, talking about that frame of the live stream, wherever you're watching it from. Theo, #AJB Depp for the win. Oh, no, I put that one up already. How about this comment? Evelyn wants the link to Peter's Jack Sparrow stream. I'll put it up on my Twitter, on my WFLA Twitter, but you can go find it by looking up The Lawyer You Know on YouTube. Susan Dawson, #AJB. Does it have to be unanimous, Peter?
Yes. All 7 have to agree on who wins. And JB asked a good question. Does sometimes the money take a long time? Yes. That's where you can get some compromise. Somebody says, I really don't believe in that much, just a little bit. Somebody hook, line, and sinker. One person wants $50 million, one person wants $1. Maybe they come up with a number in between as a compromise.
Sarah Jackson, #JB. What happens if there is a mistrial?
They do it all over again. Hung jury equals mistrial equals retrial.
Now, when you say all over again, you mean all over again. All 6 to 7 weeks of this. It's a rinse and repeat.
Well, they don't have to call all the same witnesses, but yes, they have to prove all the same points. They can't just read back the transcript to a jury or replay all the videos that they've already done so they don't have to show up to court. Nope. Parties have to come back, redo the whole trial, reprove their case, redefend their case from Jump Street. And
you can't reference anything from the first trial, correct? So that, everyone making, a lot about those, about the testimony of the former TMZ employees, stuff like that, that cannot be referenced in a second trial after the mistrial is declared, correct?
So they can use it to impeach. If somebody said something inconsistent in the first trial, they could say, during the second trial, they can say, well, in the first trial, you said this, but now you're saying this. Why'd you change your testimony? But some of those shock and awe moments, like with the psychiatrist or with the TMZ employee, those won't come out the second time. They'll be smarter. The lawyers will be smarter the second time around not to ask the questions that get those responses.
Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know, right here with offices in the Tampa Bay area. He's a great sport hanging out with us this morning. He was on stream with us last week. Peter, before I let you go, you have the final word. I know you've got a busy day to get to. We all have our 9-to-5 jobs. We all have stuff to get to do, have to do today. So the last word is yours, sir.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting case for everybody to kind of watch and understand the process, but realize it's very different from just about any other case you'll ever see go to trial. The civil justice system is set up to give us this even playing field to put a case in front of a jury. So I think it's really important that we understand that, and we understand the pitfalls and downfalls that can come from a trial and from litigation, as well as to not be overly litigious coming from a civil litigator. So I want everybody out there to understand that. And our channel is there, Lawyer You Know on YouTube, at Tragos Law, my last name, and Law is our Twitter and Instagram handle. If you want to follow us there and get in the action, hopefully I'll join more with JB on some future cases, some even happening in Florida right now. But I appreciate you letting me come on here, JB. It was a lot of fun, and can't wait till the next time.
Peter, yeah, it's been great, man. And I look forward to having you back on. There's no doubt about it. And to our audience, yeah, give him a follow, folks. The Lawyer You Know on YouTube. His streams have been outstanding. Peter, thanks so much for joining us. And listen, with the size of the audience that we have right now, you're welcome to come back in the next hour if you'd like. If you have free time and I'm still on this stream soloing it, you're welcome to do so, my friend. Take care.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Back here with you live, folks, on WFLA Now. And we're going to stay with you on stream. I cannot say farewell to 27,000 people on Facebook and another 14,000 people on YouTube, not to mention the number of people that we have joining us on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. Why don't we check the poll results just for a second? As laughable as they might be to some, the poll results they do tell a story. And if you don't know the poll results I'm talking about the one in the description on this video, on the pinned comment on your screen. You can just click on it, no sign up, no email required. You click on the link, you vote in the poll, you're back here in a flash. I'm serious. I'm going to check them now and see what we're up to, because this is the same poll that we had after closing arguments ended on Friday. And the poll results were staggeringly one-sided. I do a lot of polls, folks. Do a lot of social media polls for a lot of different stories. And usually, even the less popular option will still get votes just because it's a two-option poll. It's only human nature for there to be a lot of votes given to the less popular option. Except in this poll, because of how much support Johnny Depp has received. So let's go. I'm going to click on the same link that everybody else is clicking on, and we'll give a count here to the exact number of votes that have come in for each option. And here it is. Who won Depp versus Heard? I'm going to click on the results button, and they're still coming. Oh my goodness. It's a clean right now. It's you're voting by the dozens right now, but it's a clean 98% to 2%. That's so, even for social media polls, how rare that is. I'm talking. This is an unscientific poll. There are pollsters that do, scientific-based polls where there's an actual science to it to make sure that you're not getting duplicated responses, and that you're making sure that people who you're just verifying the authenticity of that person's vote. We have no means to do that. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a one-click poll. There's no way to do a scientific-based one-click poll. But what's interesting is that, and I mentioned this on our stream on Friday, when it comes to polls, you could put a poll question out there, is the sky blue, yes or no? And you're going to get 5% of people that just say no just because they feel like it. The fact that it's 98% to 2% goes to show how overwhelming the support is for Johnny Depp. And two, it also tells a story of how little of support that there is for Amber Heard. The exact count, we just eclipsed 6,000 people voting in favor of Johnny Depp. We've got 116 people voting for Amber Heard. And let's also mention about this poll, too, that's very, very, very important. It's not a black or white, who do you support poll. That's not the question that we asked. The question that we asked is, who do you think won the trial? Because you could be Team Johnny all the way and be a Johnny Depp supporter and have watched every minute of this trial and really be in Johnny Depp's corner, but still think that Amber Heard's team, legal team, did the better job in the court of law at proving their point. But regardless, just the overwhelming result of this poll is Johnny Depp, and that just in and of itself, scientific poll or not, it just tells a very, very, very clear-cut story about the court of public opinion and how people have really resonated with Johnny Depp telling his story in a court of law, seeking out this trial as a form, an unfiltered, unaltered way for his story to be heard rather than it be told through the media or be spun in a headline, wanting all of you to hear it without there being any media filter whatsoever. I'm speaking now as a reporter, so it's very interesting that he wanted it to be a direct forum from his mouth, Amber Heard's mouth, and all the experts that have been brought in to testify, and of course, the legal attorneys who have been representing them, direct access from them, from the courtroom itself, to your ears, and to your eyes, too. Because what's interesting about this trial is so many people say, and I've received so many comments of people saying that Amber Heard didn't pass the eye test. That based on her testimony on the stand, that it was not something that they were convinced of, that she was telling the truth, being authentic, being genuine, and being factual. The amount of comments that I have received where you don't even have to hear Amber, you can just watch her mannerisms on the stand, people that have said that, it's just palpable. It's palpable to talk about just how much she has seen this downfall, this nosedive, not just by how she's been speaking, but how she's been seen speaking while on the stand. Let's get back to some of the comments, the hashtag AJB comments and questions that are coming in. Let's go over to YouTube and just say hello to everybody on YouTube. And also, too, for folks on YouTube, where are you joining us from? I just would like to see some folks in our comment section. Let us know exactly where you're watching from. Because Facebook, we really have largely a Tampa Bay audience for the most part. We have a lot of Floridians that join us in our Facebook Live comment section, but YouTube Live, we have people joining us from around the world. So let's just, before we get into some more of these comments, let us know exactly where you're watching from, whether it's in the United States, tell us what state you're watching from, or if you're joining us abroad internationally, let us know what country you're watching from. Would really like to hear it. The first one I see is Mrs. George is watching from Tampa, Florida. We've got folks joining us from Dubai. Clearwater, hello to Belva in Clearwater, Florida. Sophie says hello from Scotland. Illinois, says Kathleen. My goodness. Okay, now they're coming in too fast for me to read. I'm going to have to scroll and just slow this down. Winnipeg, Canada from Scott. Denise saying the Netherlands. Yeah, and listen, to the folks joining us internationally, I'm really sorry about our poll access being restricted to. I have fought hard, long and hard, for there to be international access to our WFLA.com polls and our WFLA.com articles and content, and it's been unsuccessful. I've been trying. I think that our content should be able to be read and watched around the world, and WFLA and our coverage of Florida news, and of course news elsewhere as well. We would like to be able to feature that content for people joining us internationally. It's just for some reason it's a battle that I have been unable to win, but I'm still working on it for you folks. But believe me, your voice is being heard in this poll. I keep using that word. Your voice is being, see, I want to say heard, and I told myself that I would stop using that word because it's a meme waiting to happen. But okay, we're back here with you live, and we're gonna get to some of the comments that are coming in out of the Facebook Live comment section. Kayla, Don King, hashtag HeyJB, what will happen if they can't all agree? Yeah, we have a hung jury and we have a mistrial, and as Peter said earlier, you do it all over again. You know, one of the things we could have really gotten into the minutia with Peter, but what happens if they can determine what happens when it comes to the punitive versus the compensatory damages in the case? When it comes to how much money to award, what happens if they just can't agree on a dollar figure? That's something too that is, regardless, if they can't agree on a dollar figure, I believe that it is also a mistrial. It's also a hung jury. So there's a lot at stake with those 7 jurors in the jury deliberation room. If you're just joining us, by the way, we do not have courtroom access. We don't have a feed of the courtroom. You can't see into the courtroom because, quite frankly, there's nothing going on in the courtroom right now. All of the action is with those 7 jurors in the deliberation room, and really the judge and others, the world, awaiting a verdict of some kind. And we're hopeful that a verdict gets reached. You never want to see a mistrial. You never want to see a hung jury, regardless of case. You just never want to see it. You want to see our legal system at work. You want to see it be effective in determining the outcome of a dispute, in this case a civil dispute, whether it's a criminal trial. You just always want to see our legal system in its functional state, not in a state of dysfunction where, you know, our jurors can't agree. I mean, listen, that you could argue, that an expert could argue too, that that's also just our legal system working. You know, displaying disagreement is also a form of our legal system working. It's not always going to be unanimous, but I'm just speaking for myself. I'd like to see our system work and our jurors come to a unanimous decision, and for all those 7 voices in that room to be heard and get closer to a decision so that our tax dollars are put to good use. Because if we have to do it all over again, folks, yeah, that's just more of our tax dollars being put towards something that they didn't get right the first time. Not that they didn't get it right, they just couldn't agree. And so you want to see a jury decision. Kylie Albert, hashtag HeyJB. What happens if there is a split in the decision, the 50-50 for both parties? If you're talking about money, I believe that that's just the ruling. But if there's a 50-50 split on the jurors, well, there can't be a 50-50 split because you're talking about 7 jurors. We talked about this on Friday too. That's just the system where in this jurisdiction in Fairfax County, Virginia. If this was held in Florida, you'd have 10 jurors, and that's more people that you're trying to get all on one side. So the fact that there's 7 makes it more likely that you're going to get a verdict because there's fewer jurors you have to get on one side. Because let's say it was in Florida. Let's say this trial was here. Let's say you get 9, all in favor of one outcome, and then you have 1 holdout. That 9 could be the 7 in Virginia, but the fact that it's Florida and the fact that it's 10 jurors, then you have 1 holdout because you had 3 additional jurors, potentially. So it's a good, fewer jurors means more of a likelihood that there is going to be a unanimous verdict reached. That's not to say that there is going to be a unanimous verdict reached. I'm just saying that it's more likely, and we can only hope that we are going to get some kind of unanimous verdict for the outcome that the jurors declare to be the outcome in this case. All right, reading some more comments that are coming in. Folks, I asked that you use the hashtag. It's not because I like to hear my name said over and over again. It's for 2 reasons. It's you letting me know that you want me to read your comment and your name aloud, and in some cases animated on screen with your profile picture. That's basically you're letting me know you're okay with that. And also, 2, it helps me especially with a larger audience like this. It helps me when your comments are scrolling on the screen. I can follow a hashtag because it's bold. on my screen. I can follow that easier as it's scrolling up on my screen. No, you know, Andrew, this is a good question. Andrew Grogan says, #HJB, so it's up to the judge to make the financial outcome around the damages? You would think that makes sense, right? Because usually a judge is to declare sentencing, right? If in a criminal trial, if the jury declares a verdict of guilty versus not guilty, usually then a sentencing hearing is declared for a later date, and then usually the judge will then determine the sentence based on, of course, the arguments that are made for conviction and so on and so forth, and for the sentence that each party is seeking as far as the outcome in that case. The judge will determine what the sentence is. In this case, the money is being discussed right now in the jury deliberation room. It's not something that the judge is really going to have all that much control over as far as when it emerges out of the deliberation room. So yeah, so Glenda Jones, all indications are, and Kim Martinez, we'll get to yours. Yeah, oh wow, yeah. Jennifer, I see your comment. We're gonna get to your comment. Brittany, okay, I got a lot of your comments now in the queue. Let's get to this one. Glenda Jones, #HeyJB. I saw that Johnny wouldn't be there for the verdict. Is this true? All signs are pointing to Johnny not being there for the verdict. Is that not interesting? It speaks to where his frame of mind is, does it not? It speaks to where how I think that what it means, how I interpret it, is that he is ready for this to be in the rearview mirror. He's ready to move on to. This has been grueling for all parties involved. This has been across 7 weeks, many days of testimony, and all the work that went into this trial and all the depositions. It's just been an extremely long and arduous process for all parties involved, and it seems as if Johnny is just it seems that he is ready for it to be over. He doesn't want to sit in that courtroom anymore. If anyone's ever sat in a courtroom for that many days, you know that you get really you get ready for a change of scenery. Not everybody, but I'm just speaking that a lot of people, a lot of jurors will tell you that sometimes that when you're in there for an extended period of time with a longer case, you really are starting to just crave some sunshine, let alone, a change of scenery. So it seems like Johnny was on stage this past weekend playing guitar. There were pictures of him, of course, all across social media. And by all indications right now, there's a very small chance that he actually appears for the verdict itself. And as Peter noted earlier, he does not have a legal obligation to be there in the courtroom for the verdicts being read. So it's, but we are hearing that Amber Heard will be there. And that, of course, that just means that all the cameras and all the attention will be focused in on her even more when a verdict is hopefully read aloud in the courtroom. Kim Martinez, #HeyJB, do you think we will get a verdict today? And then we had another one also asking the same question. Listen, folks, it's absolutely in play. There's no doubt about it. It's absolutely in play. They got in about half a day of deliberations on Friday after closing arguments concluded. Then, I don't know if the weekend, I don't know if the weekend helps or hurts as far as, beginning the first full day of deliberations after a holiday weekend. I don't know if that brings you more, if you're a juror, if that brings you more clarity on the case because your mind has had a little more time to process it, or if it sets you back because you still have things to review in the deliberation room and things to discuss. It's hard to say with a case like this, but let me make this clear. It is very, very possible that a verdict is reached today. I believe that Peter's prediction was that Peter's prediction on Twitter, for what it's worth, FWIW, for what it's worth, Peter's prediction, of course, him being a plaintiff's attorney, and he's been covering this case, doing all the analysis live streams that he's been doing. He has a pretty good grip on this case. His prediction was that we are going to get to the end of today. The jury is going to indicate that they're close. They are going to go into an extended session of deliberations, which means going beyond 5 o'clock Eastern time. That's what that means. Because if they're that close, you don't want to have to come back tomorrow, restart it all over again. If they're close, you're going to let them go into the 6 o'clock hour, potentially even the 7 o'clock hour, if it means that they're going to get to a verdict today. And Peter's prediction was that they are in an extended session around dinner time. It's just a prediction. It's just a shot in the dark, but I trust his prediction over most others. Amanda Gonzalez, we talked about this too earlier. This was one of the many, many questions. Hashtag, oh wow, no, that doesn't have hashtag AJB. I will have to unanimate it. I thought I saw it, and she might have edited her comment. It's possible that that's what happened. But basically the question is, will Amber be charged with perjury if she loses? And it's almost a certainty that she will not be. It's very, very unlikely that she faces perjury charges. There just wasn't a slam dunk sort of moment where she was definitively lying on the stand. I think that there were inconsistencies and a lot of holes poked in some of the things that she had said while on the stand. That has been very, very evident. However, a slam dunk moment where she is lying is, in Peter's estimation, just did not really exist to where a perjury charge would be able to stick. It's not about. It's got to be egregious. It's got to be particularly egregious for them to be able to file that charge in a court of law. Jennifer Rainier, hashtag HeyJB. Hi there, Jennifer. Is it 7 jurors plus the 2 alternates making 9 total, or is it the 7 including the 2 alternates meaning only 5? No, it's your first. It's 7 jurors plus the couple of alternates, and so the alternates are on. I believe that they're on standby. I believe should one, look, in certain spots across the country, we still have COVID. COVID is still a thing. You could just put away COVID for a second. If you just got the flu and a juror caught the flu over the weekend and couldn't make it in, as I understand it, those alternates would be on standby, I believe. Brittany asking a question that so many people have been asking. Hashtag AJB, how did this case affect JD's position in Pirates of the Caribbean? Well, as it's been publicized publicized in the media, Johnny Depp was kind of shown the door, so to speak. And listen, what happened in the aftermath of the op-ed that was posted in the Washington Post, there was a tremendous fallout with his career, and doors that were normally wide open were slammed shut for Johnny Depp. He has indicated that he has no intention whatsoever for being in a Pirates of the Caribbean movie ever again. And that brought tremendous sadness to a lot of people because of how much people have really, just fallen in love with that character over the years. It's been a true love affair with audiences around the world and Johnny Depp's portrayal of Jack Sparrow. So you have to take Johnny Depp for his word that he's never going to do another Pirates movie. He said it on the stand. I believe, what was the quote, you guys? I believe it was $300 million and 100 million alpacas. That was the essence of the, or no, it was not 100 million. It was $1 million. More than $300 million and 1 million alpacas to be able to obtain his services for any future Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Yeah, he said no. So in essence, what Johnny is saying is that that he has, in essence, closed his own door on that chapter of his life, saying that he is ready to move on. And I think it's very likely that we're going to see more Johnny Depp projects in the future, given this complete and total reversal in the court of public opinion. And you could argue about the court of public opinion in the fallout of the Washington Post op-ed and how much it really affected him in the public's view rather than Hollywood's view. We're not going to really get into that, but the point is that given the retribution that has been achieved in the court of public opinion for Johnny Depp, it's extremely likely that he's going to be able to continue to bring beloved characters to the silver screen in the future. It just might not be Jack Sparrow. I know that makes a lot of folks really, really sad, but it's just the reality of where he is in his life and how he felt that he was betrayed in the aftermath of that op-ed getting published. Linda Northman, hashtag AJB, hashtag lawyer you know. Why aren't we live in the courtroom? It's because there's no courtroom feed. The jury right now is deliberating. And that means, what does that mean? That means that they are in the courthouse. They are in a protected room, a room that is soundproof, believe me, and a room, too, where things are accessible to them to be able to, I believe that they're able to review notes. There's a lot of things that they have as far as access to review the facts presented by each side, or really the cases presented by each side in this trial. So we're not live in the courtroom because it's illegal for us to have any access to the deliberation room. Of course, we could show you NBC, of course, that's our network. I could show you a live feed of the courtroom, or NBC could declare to give me access to the courtroom feed, but there's nothing in there. It's completely blank, or completely empty, rather. There's nothing going on right now in the courtroom. Let's just go back to the big, bold words on the bottom of your screen. Will the jury reach a verdict today? Again, for those of you just joining us, you might be just joining us for just a quick hot second. The answer to that question is it's possible. You could maybe even make the argument it's probable, but we can't say with any degree of certainty that it's going to be today. But an entire full day of deliberations, you can get a whole lot done with one full day. We've seen it in the past with jury cases. Sometimes all it takes is that first full day. Now, remember, deliberations began on Friday. It began after closing arguments around. It was after the lunch hour. However, this is the first full day where the only task, it's not to hear any more evidence, not to hear any more closing arguments, not to hear any more testimony. It's just to figure this out in the deliberation room. And right now, that's what they're doing. They're trying to figure it out. Look for some other comments. Let's go over to YouTube and say hi to YouTube. BricksNat, hashtag HeyJB with a Hay. That's funny. Hey, JB, have you seen Amber today going inside the court? I have not. I haven't seen any video, any pictures showing Amber Heard going into the courtroom. And really, she has no obligation to be there until a verdict is read. So she's likely on standby for when a verdict is read, and she'll be called to the courtroom to be there. Big Easy, hashtag HJB. Can they grant more money than they are suing for? That's a great question. I don't believe, can they and will they is different. And Big Easy, I'm really glad that you said can they, because will they is probably no. Can they? I also, see, this is again why having an attorney is beneficial, but I do not believe that they can go above the amounts set in this. And as to what Peter was saying is that what they are probably trying to do is find a amount of money that is going to make the most sense between what the two sides have called for and what they've asked for. Chloe Marie, hashtag HJB, do you think that this should have been a criminal trial? No, No, we have enough crimes in this country, serious crimes in this country. We don't need this to be defined as a crime. This was filed, and I agree with it being filed civilly. Again, the United States of America, we have enough happening in criminal court. This was very much a civil case. Oh, let's see. So I'll check my feed grid. People who are saying, there are some people out there saying, hold on. I'm just looking for, no, I'm not seeing any courtroom feeds, you guys. Somebody was saying that in the comment section that there is a live feed to the courtroom. Not seeing it anywhere, at least, and it's not available to me anywhere, which is very common. Very, very common. It's not out of the ordinary to not have a courtroom shot. They usually feed when they have to. Resources, you know, listen, being able to feed stuff out of the courtroom, and that all takes, it takes money, it takes, so of course they're gonna save things for when we actually do have a verdict. Let me explain what's gonna happen when a verdict is reached, though. In a word, it's gonna be pandemonium on the internet because somebody is going to leak it. This is what happened. This is not exclusive to this trial. It's with major trials altogether here in the United States. What is going to happen is the judge is going to learn that the jury has either reached a verdict or is has basically coming to the very, very end of their deliberation process. And at which time, it depends on the different, hold on, I have to get rid of a spammer here. Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of spammers. I don't like spammers in our comment section. What's gonna happen is it's gonna leak through some means. But what is likely going to happen is when they are ready to resume courtroom activity, when they are ready to call everybody back to the courtroom, the lawyers for each side are going to, even though Johnny's likely not going to be there, the lawyers for each side are going to be told, hey, we're pretty sure we're right there on a verdict, or we do have a verdict. And then once those calls are made, it's just all hell is going to break loose with the media then getting word of it. Then the tweets are going to start, the Facebook posts are going to start, TikTok's going to go crazy. All of these platforms are going to go absolutely bonkers because there's going to be word that a verdict has been reached. It's going to spread like wildfire across the internet. And then what will happen is us, many others, we will launch our live streams. We might be on live stream already. It could happen, listen, could a verdict happen in the next 15 minutes? Sure. Is it likely? Probably not. But what will happen is live streams will launch across the country, and everybody will tune in for that moment. YouTube might break. Facebook might break. When I tell you that there is going to be an unreal spike in traffic for these live streams, all in that one singular moment in time, it's going to really test the infrastructure of YouTube and of Facebook and other streaming platforms, because it's not normal for there to be this outrageous, enormous spike in traffic for one singular moment in time. Think about all the international connections that are going to be coming in, that are going to be made virtually, people watching from around the world, all watching one singular feed, or several singular feeds from individual pages across the internet. So, hey, YouTube, Facebook, get ready. It's going to be an enormous internet moment, if you will. Oh, hashtag HJB, what legal reason can Heard file an appeal? Take your pick. There's a gajillion different reasons to file an appeal. One can just be about, and we have seen this in so many other court cases, appeals being launched on the grounds the jury was not able to have an unadulterated view of the case because of the enormity of the media coverage. Now that usually gets tossed out, but there's a lot of different ways that you can launch an appeal and get that process started. And I have to just ban a couple of other people here, folks. So spammers get on my nerves. I'm sure it gets on your nerves too. Looking for other hashtag HJB comments. Yeah, Vincent, I see your comment on YouTube Live. Again, perjury charges are just to file a perjury charge. It's just got to be so clear cut and egregious for that claim to stick and be presented in a court of law. It's just it's you know, I think that there is a story to be told in that so many people are calling for perjury charges against Amber Heard. That in and of itself is just wild to me, that there's just that much emotions. There's so many emotions from people against Amber Heard. People who feel deeply upset with Amber Heard and the fallout that occurred with Johnny Depp's career in the aftermath of that op-ed. I've never seen so many people call for perjury charges ever against a human being. Period. It's unheard of. Sorry, guys. It's just it's impossible to not use that word. I guess it's a word that's in my vocabulary quite a bit. Yeah, I'm going back and forth between Facebook and YouTube, and when I see hashtag HJB comments, the number one that I'm seeing is, can she be charged with perjury? Will she be charged with perjury? Will she be charged with perjury for this moment or that moment? Again, I'm just going to put this blanket statement out there. The chances of perjury charges being filed are slim to none. It's highly unlikely. And it's just because in a case of perjury, usually it has to be such an egregious lie, an egregious about face on a particular factual piece of information. It's just, it's got to be so clear cut and so mind boggling of a flip flop that it's just, and that, you know, so the chances are extraordinarily slim. I'm checking NBC for any other feeds, even outside the courtroom. I'd love some feeds outside the courtroom. Nope. I have to send an email to my friends over at NBC for a live feed. I wish I could give you guys something to watch. You know what? Maybe I can do that right now. Maybe we can get away with that somehow. And email the great folks over at NBC and ask them for any feed whatsoever. Let's do that. Stand by, folks. I'm doing this for the greater good. Stand by. Okay. Ball's in your court, NBC. Maybe you guys can get back to me and help out a simple live streamer just trying to help his audience get just some look at something that isn't the same courtroom video and the same face over and over and over again. Our poll results are ridiculous. I just popped this tab open again, and I just cannot believe. Click in the link in the comment section if you want your, I'm not going to say it again, if you want your vote to be counted, not the other word. And you can vote in our poll. We're up to about 7,000, roughly 7,000 votes. All right, going back to some of the comments in the comment section. That's a very funny comment. I do have other feeds to bring you guys if you guys want them. You know, for example, here's our tower camera. That's a live shot from Tampa, Florida, folks. If you've never been, come hang out with us. We'd love to have you. A lot of comments. Let's get to this one. Charlie, hashtag HeyJB. What are Johnny's chances looking like? Obviously, we all know, but I know defamation is hard to prove, although, in my opinion, his team and her team proved his case. Look, Johnny's got a pretty good chance based on the legal analysis that I've read from attorneys that specialize in this form of law, like Peter's, live streams, and some other write-ups from some other highly respected names in the field of defamation law. The chances of Johnny winning are there. They're certainly there. There was the UK court case where Johnny did not win in that case, and that's obviously that's a bit of a cloud looming over this one, just because there's that precedent that's been established that Johnny did not win in the UK. What makes the US case different? That's a whole live stream in and of itself. But listen, different case, different facts, or excuse me, different rounds of testimony, different, it's a completely different trial. And while the subject matter is the same, just the trial itself has been different. And so just because the UK trial didn't go in Johnny's favor doesn't mean that the United States one isn't going to go in his favor. He's based on what I've read, he's got a pretty good chance, but we won't know until the verdict is actually read aloud. Bernie Martin, hashtag, or it's not even hashtag, HeyJB, do you think we're going to get a verdict? Do you personally think we're going to get a verdict today? Look, I'm hopeful. Can't say I think. No one knows. I think maybe attorneys have a better idea because they are feeling the ebbs and flows of the trial as it's been unfolding on live stream. But do I personally think we're going to get a verdict today? I'm hopeful that we get a verdict today. I'm just hopeful for a verdict, period. I just don't want a mistrial. I'm the captain of the please don't let there be a mistrial fan club, okay? Mistrials are the worst because it's again, you have to do it all over again. You just don't want to have to do that. You don't want there to be, just don't want to have to go through that whole rodeo all over again, folks. All right, going back over to YouTube. We are gonna wrap here shortly, folks. I can't stay with you live the entirety of the day. I'm gonna try to stay as live for as long as I can. Rubina980, hashtag HeyJB. Would you take a case like Amber's? I'm not an attorney. No, I'm a humble news reporter. I'm not an attorney. And I can't say if in a weird alternate universe, if I was an attorney, would I take that? Would I take that case? That's a great question for Peter. You know, I would love to have asked him that question because you do have to really want your. I mean, that you want there to be that moral support. You want there to be that, listen, you want to do right by your client. You want to do right by your client first and foremost, but you also want to be representing the good guys. At least that's how I see it. If I was an attorney, I'd want to be on the good team. I don't want to be representing the bad guys. I think in a court of law, I think that there is this stereotype, and it's probably true. I can't say for certain, but there's this stereotype that usually attorneys for the bad guys are the ones that get to stuff their pockets a little bit more than attorneys for the good guys. It's just that's a terrible example for this case because we're talking about a civil case. I think I cover mostly criminal trials. I'm not covering civil trials all that much. What's interesting is that, you know, right on the heels of this civil trial, I'll be covering another civil trial with the Brian Laundrie, Gabby Petito trial that's going to be starting, or at least that first pretrial hearing gets underway in about 3 weeks' time. So I will be covering a lot of civil trials here so far throughout the year of 2022. However, I am well more versed in criminal law and well more versed in Florida law than I am in civil cases in other states. It's not my wheelhouse. This is why I bring on experts. I can only answer questions to the best of my ability. Seth Wallace, #KJB, can you repeat what you said about the appeal? Yes, appeals are going to happen. I'm always of the standpoint, appeals are going to happen until they don't. Appeals are almost a near certainty with a case like this, because someone's going to feel like that the outcome was not just, and whatever side that is that rules the outcome isn't just is going to launch an appeal to get what they think is rightfully theirs. And so I can't see. Peter said it was more likely that there isn't an appeal than how I feel right now, that there is a chance that there's going to be no appeal launched. But I just think that with all of the scrutiny, all of the attention, all of the focus, I can't see a scenario where there isn't one. So, Terry Jackson, #KJB, what are the poll results? 7,341 people to 134 people. 98.2% of people think that Johnny Depp's team won this trial. Again, you could ask people if the sky is blue, and 5 to 10% will tell you, nah, no, it's not. It's not blue. Just because of the internet, just because that's how people respond to poll questions. It's usually, I'm just going to vote for this less popular option just because I feel like it. So the fact that there's 98% to 2% is, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like it. Stephanie Sikorsky, I see your comment. Very cheeky. A lot of cheeky comments. Folks, here's what we're going to do. Let's see. You know what, though? I don't want to wrap up our live stream until NBC gets back to me. Oh, I do have a reply email. NBC said, why? Why do you want, why would you like a live feed from the courthouse, from outside the courthouse? Maybe because there's a lot of people watching our live stream that would be very interested in it. I guess we'll find out what they say. Welcome to live streaming, folks. This is what happens behind the scenes. When they go to commercial break on your TV screens, these are the questions that get asked. Yeah, no, there's no verdict. People who there's going to be trolls on the internet claiming that there's a verdict in the case, and that's just because everybody wants to click. Everyone wants their attention. There is no verdict until there's a verdict, period. So when you see a tweet from, stanza 02_028, that person, insert random Twitter handle here, and says verdict reached, don't believe that person. So we'll tell you when there's a verdict. Believe me, we will tell you when there is a verdict. I just really hope there is one. I think the public has invested so much of their time in this, and they just want to know. This is what's interesting. Like Mark's comment. Mark's comment is #HJB. I don't think it's that Johnny's team won the case, rather than many people think that Amber is a liar. I think that this what Mark's comment says, there's some truth in that from the public's perspective, that's one of the reasons why they're so very much looking forward to there being a verdict in the case. I talked about this a lot with folks over the weekend. Johnny has won the court of public opinion. Period. Take it to the bank. It's done. We have one career that is going to be entering now another chapter with Johnny, where he is going to have doors open to him. And then there's another, we have Amber Heard's career that has taken really, really just a nosedive in the court of public opinion. Just a hard to fathom downfall with what has transpired with Amber Heard. Publicly coming forward as a victim, and now all these years later, going from victim to, dare I say, hated. There are people in our comment section who have said some really mean-spirited things about Amber Heard. So the emotions are running high with our comment section, with really just the internet in general. People who are who have vowed to never see an Amber Heard film ever again, and don't want to see any more of Amber Heard. And so we have these careers now that are quite literally going in opposite directions. And the court of public opinion has been, really the verdict in that court has been declared. 98% of our audience says that Johnny Depp won. 2% say that Amber Heard won. And so the court of public opinion, which really is going to be indicative as to whether or not their Hollywood careers continue or get squashed, that consensus has been formed online and really around the world, that people are very much, listen, I do not want to diminish any further the supporters out there of Amber Heard. Your voices deserve to be heard too. However, it's just so overwhelmingly one-sided that when a Hollywood studio has to determine who they're going to cast as a leading actress or even a supporting actress in a significant role, and they have 5 different options of finding the right person for this particular role, and Amber Heard is one of them. How is a casting director, how is a studio gonna opt for somebody who has had, publicity-wise, such a terrible, terrible downfall in the court of public opinion in the aftermath of this case? It's just, we're trying to be, trying to be real with you folks. It's going to be extremely hard for Amber Heard to find meaningful work as an actress in the aftermath of this trial. So the court of public opinion, really, that verdict has been declared. Why do so many people care then about the verdict itself? it's just because there are so many people out there that want to see Johnny win. Period. That's really what it is. They want vindication. They want there to be retribution. They want there to be justice. And so people just want that moment. It's about that moment in time, because gradually, over time, there has been the narrative that has formed with the court of public opinion that Johnny Depp has emerged victorious. But there wasn't a definitive moment where somebody came forward and says, Johnny, you win. Whereas with this verdict, you could get that moment in time where the jury of 7 comes forward, declares money that is deemed declares there to be enough damages for Johnny Depp where it's deemed a win for his team, and there is that moment of victory, getting to the mountaintop for the folks that believe that Johnny Depp was wronged in the aftermath of that op-ed. So it's just about this moment that people can rally behind and say, I told you this is what it should have been, and for the Johnny Depp supporters out there, it's just having that significant moment in time being declared. That's what I think is what people are really seeking. They want to see, too, our court system, our court of law, match the court of public opinion. In a way, it's not exact, but in a way, the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that have been watching every moment of this trial. I made it very clear from day one, I have not been one of them. There's too much going on in the news environment today for me to watch every minute of this trial. There's just bigger things going on in the world, folks. I hate to break it to you, but there are bigger things going on in the world than Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. But there are some people that have watched every second of this trial, every single second. And in a way, that makes them feel this connection with the jurors. And those people, whoever you are, you can raise your hand in the comment section. If you have watched be honest. If you have watched every single solitary second of this trial, I don't care if it was live, maybe you were working and maybe you had to go home and then you watched it back or something like that. If you've watched every single solitary second of this trial online, throw up a hand emoji. I'm just curious. I'd like to see how many we get. And be honest. Try to be honest. But bottom line is those people feel a connection with the jury and want to see the court of public opinion match the court of law, wants the jurors to see it the same way that you do, whichever way that may be. NBC is checking if there's any feeds that they can bring us, folks, as to whether or not we can take you to the courthouse, just even for a shot outside to show you the crowds, the people that are waiting. And yes, there are people waiting on the streets outside the courthouse, camped out, waiting for action. Maybe, crazy as it sounds, maybe there's somebody in our comment section right now who is watching from outside the courthouse. Stranger things have happened. Believe me, stranger things have happened. That's a lot of hands in the comment section. A lot of hands. That just really goes to show how many people really do, if you're being truthful with us, folks, how many people really are so invested in this trial and so invested in the outcome of it. Christopher Hull, hashtag AJB. My personal opinion when it comes to the dollar amount awarded, their net worth should be taken into great consideration. 100 million, question mark? How did she get that number? It is kind of a round number, isn't it? It's like if they used some formula to come up with these numbers and it was something like $92,364,471, then you're like, oh, okay, they must have come up with that dollar figure, but they came up with these numbers of 50 million and 100 million, and it's just a very round, even number that makes for a good headline. And so how they came up to those round, even numbers, I can't say. But I'm sure that they came up with a rough idea as to what they thought that they were entitled to, each side, and they went with it. And that's just where we got to these numbers. For those of you just joining us, JB Buno here with you live on WFLA Now, our streaming platform. We were doing, let me explain to everybody the plan for a second. What the plan was today. The plan was that we were going to do a half-hour show at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, right when the jury began their deliberations. And then all of a sudden we saw that the amount of people watching this live stream was way higher than what we were anticipating. I'm just being honest with you. This is what goes on in our newsrooms. We plan live streams to do to talk about things that you guys want to talk about. And so we knew that there was going to be a lot of people waking up after the 3-day Memorial Day weekend looking for, okay, what's next in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial? Will a verdict get reached Tuesday? Could it happen in the morning, afternoon? Would they stay late? You know, all of these questions that were going to come forward. And then, of course, we started to talk with you guys online. We had Peter Tragos on as well. And we just saw the numbers, just the amount of questions and comments that came in is significant. So we're here with you, we're just sticking around. We're just kind of hanging out with you. I'm awaiting a verdict just like all of you. I'm hopeful that we get a verdict at some point soon. And it would be, of course, it'd be great to have that today. We can't say whether or not that's going to happen today, but it doesn't hurt us all that much to just stay here with you live and hang out with you for a little bit, be part of the conversation, bring your comments in, bring your questions in, and talk to you. And also, too, I'm trying to get you guys a feed. You know what's interesting, too, is that we began the live stream, and what's interesting to me is when we start a live stream, what will happen is we will have those very first comments, like the first ones. Sometimes the very first comment is first. Someone who will write FIRST or, put 1 in the comment section just to, take home the claim that they were the first comment in the live stream. That happens a lot. The first 20 to 25 comments on this live stream that I saw that popped up on my screen were Team Johnny Depp. It was wild to see how many people were just waiting for the live stream, because we put it out on Twitter over the weekend that there was going to be this live stream, but it also just speaks to how many people are so very passionately in Johnny Depp's corner and wants to see him emerge victorious from this entire ordeal. And it's again, I'll just put this out there again. I've never seen anything like it. Never seen. This is unprecedented. Somebody coming forward as a victim of domestic abuse and then having that story and the narrative behind it start to change over time, leading to this culminated point where 98% roughly of people out there are seeking Hashtag justice for Johnny Depp. It's just we're in unprecedented territory. I want to get a feed of outside the courthouse. I'm working on that, you guys. Trying to make it happen. Oh, wait, what's this? Nope. Not yet. Oh, I'm gonna add this comment to the queue. I'm looking for hashtag HeyJB questions and comments, folks. You can bring them in. But you know what? We should probably just get right back over to our friend Peter Tragos, who is joining us again. Peter, this wasn't part of the plan today.
Hey, sometimes things happen like this, you know?
Sometimes things happen. Peter, everybody, is a really great sport. He, I think he saw me on this live stream trying to answer these legal questions and just doing a very, very, very mediocre job. And
no, I think you're doing an exceptional job for somebody who's not a lawyer. Answering all these questions just shows how much you listen to all of the things that happen around you and all the cases that you cover and all the people talking about them. You listen, you retain, and you definitely put it out there much better than your average person. So not at all. I just heard you were getting through so many questions and comments. I know what that's like to do by yourself, and it's more fun if you can have some people pop in once in a while. So that's why I wanted to pop in for I got about 20 minutes here.
You're great, Peter, and that will probably be the end of our live stream for now. So we'll do 20 minutes with Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know, folks. How about just we'll hit the applause button for him coming back on stream with us and helping out. Again, a very humble news reporter here who I was telling folks, Peter, I think that I'm way more versed when it comes to criminal law because, of course, of all the criminal trials that we cover here in the news. Civil is not my wheelhouse, so it's great to have you back here. Let's just get right into it. Let's not waste anyone's time. Let's get to this one from Holly Willis, hashtag HeyJB. Based on what we know of the jury, do you think the jury is a fair collection of his peers? What do we know about the jurors just from their makeup and how diverse they are? Some of these questions that we get asked in our comment section.
So it's a mix of male and female in their 20s to 40s. So nobody's exactly Johnny Depp's age. A jury of your peers doesn't mean people exactly like you. He chose this Virginia jurisdiction, and I think he got a fair cross-section of people in Virginia, different races. I know I think there's an African-American, Asian American, and Caucasian mix of some sort. I'm not positive as to the two that got struck. But male-female mix. So I think it's a good cross-section of people from Virginia making the decision. None of them, I mean, who is Johnny Depp's peer, right? We're going to have Brad Pitt and Matthew McConaughey come in here and make this decision. So, I mean, I don't think you're going to get specifically his peers, but I think they got a good cross-section as far as Virginian jurors.
That came up on the Friday live stream, I think, after you departed, Peter. Somebody said, really, if it was a jury of his peers, wouldn't it be the Brad Pitts and the Jennifer Lawrences of the world, yes. Meryl Streep being up there? Not as if that this has to really take on any other next level as far as publicity is concerned. We had a question that came on earlier about whether or not the jury can go above the set amounts of $50, $100 million if they determine that. I mean, the likelihood of that happening. How about this? Can they do that?
Yes.
So there you go. Very grateful that Peter's back on because I was wrong. I said I don't think that they can, but we would have to get an attorney. So they can go above those amounts. What is the likelihood that they do? So
they can go above that amount, and if you even read in the complaint, Johnny Depp's lawyers say at least $50 million.
I see.
So they can go above that if they think those compensatory damages are fair and reasonable. They can't do that to punish Amber Heard. That's what the punitive damages are for. There's two separate portions of damages in the verdict form. The likelihood, I mean, that's just tough. I think if you look at probably a lot of people watching this and a lot of people that come on to my videos and they're very strongly in support of Johnny Depp, A lot of them would go above and beyond the 50 million. I don't think the jury is going to do that if I had to guess. I think it's going to be somewhere in the $7 to $50 million range if I had to guess, unless they just go nominal damages like $1.
Now you said what was that number again? You said 7 to 50?
7 to 50, yeah, because they heard that number 7 million so many times based on their divorce settlement. A lot of people have been saying, well, maybe I'd just give him that money back, that $7 million that he paid her in the divorce settlement. So again, a jury can take whatever they want, even though that doesn't really make sense as far as the compensation he lost as part of this defamation. That was the divorce case. They can come up with whatever they think is fair and reasonable.
Folks, you can file in your hashtag HeyJB, hashtag lawyer questions and comments while we have Peter for nearly 20 or so minutes. Let me ask you a question, Peter, that has been on my mind as far as asking you, because over the weekend I thought, man, if there was one question I forgot to ask Peter, this is the one I wanted to ask him. What was the most definitive moment in this trial for you where it took on it changed things? What was a moment in this trial that you thought really potentially resonated with the jurors that sticks out in your head?
So I think it would be, there's a couple points where it really took twists and turns, but I think when Amber Heard was testifying, I'd already seen Johnny Depp testify, right? Just like the jury. So you come up and you want to hear her side. And is she believable? Does it make sense? Does it add up with anything else? And I think while she was testifying and saying she has a mountain of evidence and over again explaining these horrific events and the abuse at the hands of Johnny Depp, who's a monster, doing this over and over again throughout their relationship. But her actions after, the pictures of her after, the testimony of what happened in the surrounding circumstances, none of it really lined up with her testimony. So to me, that was kind of the turning point where I had to decide, who do I believe out of these two? They both took the stand and swore under oath. We have some other evidence around that we can look and weigh it against. So when she was testifying is when I kind of felt myself start to lean more towards Johnny Depp's side and ruling in favor of him, of who I had to pick who's telling the truth. And then I think when Kate Moss testified, it was so short and to the point. But this is another person who had a relationship for 4 years with Johnny Depp and had nothing but good things to say about him and lack of abuse, which lined up with everything else, lined up with what Johnny Depp said, lined up with his entire life of really no one accusing him of this except for Amber Heard. And we heard throughout the trial that multiple people accused Amber Heard of physical violence. So to me, that was kind of the tipping point to me, is while she was actually testifying, looking at her, reading her, watching her look to the jury and explain, watching her, cry with no tears. There's no real other way to say it but that. And I just think that her explanations did not line up with the rest of the evidence. She would explain this excruciating beating and then show pictures where you'd have to look and circle the marks on her face because they weren't readily apparent to the people looking at the picture. That's always tough for me when the evidence doesn't line up with testimony.
How about this one? And I'm gonna take this comment from Jessica Arnholt, hashtag HeyJB. She damaged his career. She should have to pay him more than $50 million. Is the comment here from Jessica. So and then I'm going to ask you this very obvious question that has been put forth by our commenters as well. If they do set it at 50 million, 60 million, 70 million, if you don't have that money just sitting around in your checking or savings account, what options are there for Amber Heard if she can't pay the amount that the court decides that she has to pay?
So there are potential collectible assets they could try to attach. Mm-hmm. They could force her into an involuntary bankruptcy and become a creditor to her bankruptcy. They can try to garnish wages. There are all sorts of different things. That there are lawyers that specialize just in collections. I'm not one of those lawyers, but they find ways to collect as much of this as possible. But what's also very common is after a civil case, when you get a judgment, a verdict from a jury, you then start negotiations and settle the case. So maybe she doesn't have 50 million, maybe she's got that 7 million still. And maybe Johnny Depp will say, if you just give me that 7 million back, we're good. And they have a settlement. That's something that could happen as well, to where she doesn't end up having to pay the full amount. That happens in a lot of civil cases.
Very interesting, because we also have this comment that just came in right behind it from Lacey Mendez, hashtag lawyer, you know. If Johnny is awarded money, in what ways will Amber Heard be held to pay up, since she has been proven to avoid her pledges? This, of course, going back to the pledge that we were talking about earlier, the unfulfilled pledge that I think made, quite a lot of headlines online. Anything to say on Lacey's comment before we move on here, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, first, they look into her checking and savings and whatever's in there. I mean, whatever amount that is, that hurts if they're able to take a chunk of that. Then they're not going to leave her destitute and homeless. There's homestead protections in every state. I'm sure she owns a home that's homesteaded. But if she owns multiple homes in the United States or in certain jurisdictions that they can try to attach, that's one way they can get it. So I think that's the most common way, but I have no idea what she owns or what her collectability is.
Let's get to this one from, Casey Johnson, hashtag HeyJB. Why is this being litigated out of Virginia? Peter just said that Johnny Depp chose Virginia. Why Virginia? Yeah, why not Florida, man? We don't get enough news in Florida, Peter. We could really have used it.
Yeah. So it's California or Virginia based on some of the allegations, where the parties live. There are different rules as to which jurisdictions you can pick. I say they chose Virginia because I believe they did, because it has so much better of a jurisdiction for defamation than California. California's got these anti-SLAPP protections that really protect free speech. More likely a case like this with defamation gets booted on First Amendment opinion protections. Virginia is a little looser and will allow these things to go through. That's why I think he picked Virginia. But the reason he was allowed to pick Virginia is because the Washington Post printers and servers are located in Virginia. So the article, the op-ed, was disseminated from those printers and that server, which was Virginia, which makes it a proper legal jurisdiction for this case.
Wow, what a great question here from Lois. That's fascinating, Peter, what you just said. But we have a great follow-up here from Lois Bowden. Hashtag lawyer, can they garnish her wages on future movie profits? And the reason why this is a fascinating question is because I know our commenters. And the commenters are going to respond to Lois here by saying, what future movie profits, based on the fact that, again, her future as being a Hollywood actress is very much in doubt and could really completely be off the rails here as far as going forward, as far as future projects that she would be included to work on. But what do we say for Lois's comment? If she was able to find work, can her wages be part of the equation in any which way, shape, or form?
Depending on the jurisdiction and the rules there, I don't practice in Virginia, obviously, on this type of issue. But in certain jurisdictions, yes, you can garnish future wages or current wages if she's getting paid out. Because, a lot of these actors, they don't get paid right up front. It can be on the back end of movies, depending on what the contract is, depending on what the deals are. So he could potentially garnish her wages. I don't know about this jurisdiction, though, specifically. But it is a potential avenue of collection for him.
How about this? Comment that just came in. I've got one coming in next from Lisa Johnson, but let's get to Christy Palmer next. Hashtag KJB. I believe that if Depp wins, he will fulfill her pledge on her behalf. This is not the first time that I've seen this theory thrown about. Do you have any reaction to it? And have you seen this before, Peter?
Yes, I would be shocked if he gave anything to the ACLU for as long as he lives. Unless they come out and write some reverse opinion about males being victims of domestic violence, how they need to raise awareness for that, then maybe he can get on board. But outside of that, I don't think he's going to do anything for the ACLU. The Children's Hospital, on the other hand, I could see him making some kind of donation post-trial there.
I would imagine Johnny gets a considerable amount of settlement money in this case. You would imagine that he's probably going to... You think that he might maybe do something with that money to sort of pay it forward, but I can't speak for the guy. How about Lisa Marie Johnson, hashtag lawyer, maybe a stupid question. No such thing as a stupid question. Is it possible that the jury says that they both win?
So I guess it's possible, but I don't think that the jury's going to say they both win. I think it's possible that either one of them wins, obviously, or that they both lose. I think it's more possible they both lose than they both win, because to say they both win would be to say that Amber Heard made false statements and Johnny Depp's lawyers saying that those statements were false were also false. So I think it would be an inconsistent verdict for them both to win, but who knows? I guess they could maybe pick certain statements and say Johnny wins on one statement, Amber wins on one statement, so technically they both win. But that would be confusing, I think, to say the least.
Marie Holtz with this one, hashtag KJB. Let's say that they do take what she has in the bank, $7 million. Will she be still obligated to donate the money to the charities? Talking about that ACLU pledge, so on and so forth.
So what's really interesting about that is charitable giving is not a contract that you have to fulfill, because they don't give you anything in return. In order to have a contract, there has to be an offer, acceptance, and consideration. There's no consideration that the donor is getting back. For the most part, I mean, some could argue Amber Heard got a lot of exposure as a result of her donation or her pledge, but in reality, she can't be forced to pay the rest of that pledge.
How about, right, so we talked about that this falls under the perjury line of questions that we took. Peter, while you were gone, the amount of perjury questions that we took, it's just, I've never seen any crowd of people ever seek out perjury charges so desperately like we've had in this case. Linda Northman, hashtag KJB, hashtag lawyer, will she face consequences for lying under oath? Again, lying under oath and inconsistencies are different things, Peter.
Very different, but some could say that if Johnny gets a big verdict here, that could be her consequence for lying under oath or for giving inconsistent statements at this trial. So while it may not be criminal consequences, or it may not be a jail sentence or anything like that, or even perjury charges technically criminally, she could still face consequences civilly, as the outcome of this trial could hinge on her giving inconsistent statements under oath.
We've got another 5 minutes, folks, with Peter Tragos, the lawyer that you know. Be sure to follow him online. And, of course, yes, as we noted earlier, you might want to go check him out, one of his most recent streams on YouTube, because, he was donning the Jack Sparrow look for that live stream as a pledge to, as a promise of a pledge fulfilled to his audience online, saying that if he got to 100,000 YouTube subscribers, that he would do a live stream dressed up as Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean as Jack Sparrow. Peter, you're a man of your word. You went through with that. Bravo, by the way.
We pay our pledges.
Let's go over to Pro Joe on YouTube Live, hashtag lawyer. How many charges will Amber face? I don't think I understand. I mean,
I think he's saying like criminal charges, perjury,
right,
domestic violence. Are there all these criminal charges?
Yeah.
It's unlikely that criminal charges are coming from here, but who knows?
Vincent, I love sometimes the open-ended questions and the vague questions are the best. Vincent says, hashtag AJB, what would be the most shocking outcome, do you think?
Johnny losing all of his claims, Amber winning all of hers, and getting $100 million. That would be shocking.
The internet's response, is there a revolt in the streets? Are there pitchforks outside across the nation?
I think so. I really think so.
Yeah, I given the strong worded comments that we're getting in our comments section, a massive win for the Heard legal team would be, oh my goodness, that would be quite the outcome. Okay, let's go over a couple of other comments that we have here. Again, focusing on YouTube Live now, just saying hello to our YouTube Live commenters. And then, Tiago Torres, we'll take this one, hashtag KJB. What happens if the verdict is not unanimous? They go until they have a unanimous verdict, correct? And if they don't, then, they chalk it up to a hung jury and a mistrial.
Correct. It's unanimous or it's a hung jury.
Let's see here. Chris Best, hashtag KJB. Do you think that the jury noticed the moments that Amber posed for cameras and smirked? She said that she didn't do any of that, but not true. Maybe Peter, just give me. You're a plaintiff's attorney. Give me your opinion on just her mannerisms during this trial. And I'll go as far, if you were representing Amber Heard and you were noticing how poorly her mannerisms were being received on the stand, would you go up to her on maybe day, whatever day it is at the trial, and say, listen, we need to maybe switch up our strategy? Clearly, your testimony and the way that you are testifying on the stand isn't resonating with people and might not be resonating with the jurors. Maybe try this or try that. Would you try to adjust her style of testimony if you were her attorney?
It's very hard to change the way a person presents, especially if they're presenting their story. They're not giving a speech.
Even an actress who's used to being able to fulfill different roles and adjust to, let's say, a director's critique, so to speak?
I just think that it's dangerous to do that after they've already seen her for a day or a day and a half, to have her act completely differently. So you can't go too far, because then it's obvious. So it would just be little tweaks, and sometimes people take that and they blow it. I mean, there's no other way to say it, but they take that and they blow it. And then they start really acting, and the jury can tell, and it's a problem. I think one critique I may have had to her was, don't look at the jury every time you answered a question. You want to look once in a while when you're telling part of a story or a longer answer, fine. But don't look at them for every single question, because most of the negative comments did surround that she just kept looking at them. They were trying to avoid eye contact. It was very strange. That's really what it was. Besides that, I think the content of her testimony was just as bad as the presentation of it.
So Haley Gilmore in our YouTube comment section saying, #lawyer, why do you think that she pointed her answers to the jury instead of the attorneys?
Either her lawyers maybe told her it was a good idea. She heard them tell an expert that, because a lot of times we tell the expert, tell this jury how this works or what this means, or explain this to the jury. So the expert will look over the jury. They will explain to the jury and say, this is what this term means, and this is what it means in my practice. This is what we do. But usually the lay people, and especially on cross, when you're asked a question, you're giving a yes or no answer, it's very awkward and uncomfortable for you to say yes, and then get the question and then say no. It almost looks like, it's very weird in how you're talking to the jury here, as opposed to in the normal conversation, you're clearly talking to the lawyer. You're not giving an explanation. You're not teaching the jury something. So it just didn't hit well. And she may have misunderstood an instruction from her lawyer and just took it too far. I don't know, but it's not something usually we'll tell our client to do on every single question.
I find it fascinating to hear you say that her switching up her strategy with how she presents herself on the stand would be a dangerous proposition midway through the trial because of how that inconsistency would be interpreted by the jury. I find that to be thoroughly fascinating. Before we go, Peter, there was one other comment that was thrown my way earlier that I couldn't answer because, again, I'm a news reporter. This one is a very specific question for someone, and explain to the audience again, what is your area of expertise? What kind of law do you practice here in Tampa Bay?
So I'm a plaintiff's personal injury lawyer. So we handle catastrophic injury cases, wrongful death cases, car accidents, slip and falls, premises liability, negligent security cases, people that are injured or killed by no fault of their own, right? Whether it's, medical malpractice case, a nursing home negligence case, a T-bone car accident, whatever it may be. Those are the cases that we handle. We fight for injured victims to make sure that they get all those medical bills paid in the past and in the future, and how it's affected their life, similar to Johnny Depp. If they lose income, if they've suffered emotional damage or emotional stress, those are the exact kind of damages we're also fighting for our clients. And then we also do criminal defense. My dad has been a big criminal defense lawyer in the Tampa Bay area for 30 plus years. He was a former assistant U.S. attorney in Tampa and assistant state attorney here in Pinellas. So he does a lot of criminal defense as well. So that's what our firm really focuses on. But all that I do is plaintiff's personal injury work. And then we have two other lawyers who focus on personal injury work as well, Pete Sardis and Dave Nizer here as well. So
that brings me to the question that our audience asked. And again, I couldn't answer it, but the question for you then I pose, if you were approached by Amber Heard to take her on as a client in this case, would you have taken it? And if Johnny Depp had approached you seeking an attorney in this case to represent him, would you have taken it? I understand that it's not exactly your precise area of expertise. I get that. But just in general, what would go through an attorney's mind as far as representing the clients, given their knowledge of the case? Would you represent either of these two clients had they found Peter Tragos' number and called you up?
So it's a loaded question, right? Because on our personal injury side, we take those cases on a contingency fee basis. If we're not willing to take the risk with the client, what a contingency fee is, you don't pay us anything out of pocket. We get a portion of the settlement only if we win.
Right.
So if we're sitting at this trial on a contingency fee basis, you're a lot more invested and nervous than if you've been being paid hourly throughout the process. These two sets of lawyers have been being paid hourly, I am willing to bet, throughout this process. So it's a very different question. And that makes this just a regular general civil litigation case. So if they come to us with their story and they're paying out of pocket hourly, it's a different assessment than if I'm taking it on a contingency fee basis. Because I would tell you, I wouldn't take either side of this case on a contingency fee basis, because you're going to work it for 6 years and you're going to have a 6-week trial where you have every lawyer in your firm all hands on deck. The only way it really works to this magnitude is to bill hourly. That's a little inside baseball, but if either of them came to me paying hourly, willing to put as much money behind it to get all the experts and all the witnesses that we need, if they were sitting across from me in my conference room telling me their story and I believed them, either side, then yes, it would be a case that we would take on an hourly basis. And it would be a case that we would fight hard for them. And a lot of people ask me, do you think Amber Heard's lawyers know that she's lying or think she's lying? I don't. I think they believe her. I think they've been with her for 6 weeks. I think she's explained their story to them. Now, maybe it becomes less plausible as they see more evidence, but I definitely think that when she explained this abuse to them, they felt for her and they believed her. I do believe that.
We will hopefully find out in the form of a verdict, should it come down later today. Peter, we'll let you get going. Peter, has your prediction on whether or not a verdict comes down today, has that been changed or altered at all since I last spoke to you about a couple hours ago?
No, I would say most likely parts for verdict that I would hope for is either tonight they stay a little bit late, they ask the judge to stay late, which may be a good indication. If not, then by the end of the day tomorrow, that's when I'm hoping to see a verdict, because if it lasts longer than that, then I start to get worried about a hung jury.
Folks, give Peter a follow. On Facebook, we have linked to his Facebook account. Of course, his law office is here in the Tampa Bay area. Go give it a follow. If you're joining us on YouTube Live, you can always go to Lawyer You Know on YouTube. Give him a subscribe. You'd be joining one of 100,000 plus that have joined him to hear some of his perspective, his legal analysis on the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case. And if you haven't heard some of them, go back and watch some of them, including one, yes, that you will find recently where he is dressed up as Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean. Peter, last word is yours, as it was last time. We're going to be beginning to wrap up our live stream here soon. So, Peter, what do you want to leave people with?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks, JB. This case is wild, and I'm sure it's going to have a wild finish as well. So we'll all be keeping an eye on it. 8:30 p.m. EST is usually when I'm doing my live recaps or talking about this trial. So if you want to check out our channel at that point or hit the reminder bell if you do subscribe, that's usually when we're doing our live breakdowns. And we answer a ton of questions every video. So that's something I love to get to and love to talk to the people kind of like you do. And getting a lot of questions answered, because that's the best content and most interesting content to the people listening, because you actually get to answer the questions they're asking, which was what makes this type of media so much better than mainstream media, or more engaging than mainstream media, because they're actually allowed to get their answers to questions in live real time, just like you've been doing throughout this show. So we try to do the same thing on our nightly recaps as well.
Peter, it's been a blast. Thank you so much, and I look forward to talking with you again after we get a verdict. Take care, my friend.
Take it easy.
All right, everybody, back here with you live on WFLA. Now let's explain where this now goes from here. We're going to be wrapping up this live stream in just a moment. There's still some things that you can do, though, including, and we'll just throw this out there again, if you would like for your voice to be heard in the form of our poll, you can click on the link in the description on this video to vote in our one-click, no gotcha kind of moment. There's no email or sign up or input your phone number to access the poll, none of that. It's just, if you have access to WFLA.com, you just click on the link and you vote in our one-click poll to tell us who you think won Depp v. Heard. You can find it in the pinned comment below, also in the description on this video. What we do now, where this goes from here, we go into standby mode. And what that means is that all of us in our newsroom here at WFLA, similar to other newsrooms, we are just ready to launch our stream to present you with the verdict when, in fact, it is reached, if it is reached. Again, the possibility exists for a hung jury, a mistrial, and we don't want to see that happen. But if there is a verdict, and if it is reached today, you can bet your bottom dollar we're going to be here with you live across all platforms. If you're watching us on Facebook Live, if you're watching us on YouTube Live, if you're watching us on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, any of these platforms, we will be live in the event of a verdict being reached. In fact, I can tell you this, we'll be live well in advance of a verdict being reached, because we'll likely get word that people are getting back to it'll take some time. It'll take probably 20, 30 minutes or so to get everybody back to the courthouse to actually resume court proceedings and resume, the jury being filed into the room, and then, of course, getting to the verdict itself. So there will be time. We'll launch our live stream platform. We'll launch our live stream across YouTube Live, Facebook Live, immediately upon hearing that a verdict is reached. And then what we will do is we will take you to the court feed. You'll be able to watch and hear for yourself as the verdict is being read aloud, should we have it. And then, of course, we follow that up with our verdict coverage portion of the live stream, where we talk to you about the verdict, what it means, and who was the victor in Depp v. Heard. So that's what happens now. We sign off for now, and we await news out of Fairfax County, Virginia, that a verdict has been reached. We look forward to hopefully that occurring at some point today. It might come Wednesday or Thursday. We really don't know when a verdict will be reached, if it is reached, but we are on standby to hit all the buttons here necessary to launch our live stream and present you with WFLA Now coverage. So I really like to thank, again, twice, Peter Tragos right here in Tampa Bay for joining us and providing his legal insight into our live stream. Go give him a follow. And yes, give us a follow as well. I'll mention this one last time while I have an audience here. I am going to start doing, drum roll, I'm going to start doing some micro reporting and perhaps live streaming on TikTok. TikTok is an audience where there's still a lot of people, as we've learned, there's still a lot of folks on TikTok that are looking for coverage of cases and coverage of news stories that they just know is rooted in reality and fact-based. Don't get me wrong, I love the TikTok community. I've had conversations with a lot of folks on TikTok here in Florida, but there's just a lot of content that gets muddled a bit between fact and fiction. And so what I'd like to do is start to, in the future, try to do some work, if I can, on TikTok, and also really, even more beneficially than that, maybe we can start to do some live streaming on TikTok too, including with stuff like taking you inside the Johnny Depp Amber Heard courtroom. That's something that we need a certain number of followers to be able to do. So go follow me if you are on TikTok and you're watching this live stream right now and you like the way that we do the news here at WFLA Now. Please go look up WFLA JB on TikTok. I haven't posted any videos yet. You'll be very disappointed if you're going there looking for content right now, but I'm trying to, in the weeks and months ahead, try to make that a place where we can post fact-based videos, micro reports, to help out some of the folks on TikTok and just kind of have a bit of a conversation with you over there on that particular platform. Thanks so much for joining us here, folks. The next time that you see me regarding Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, we can only hope is going to be during verdict coverage, a verdict live stream. That could come later today. It could come in the days ahead. Just sign up for any alerts or notifications, however you may. On your platform of choice, you can sign up for push alerts and notifications to kind of be in the know as to when we launch our live stream. That way that you can be there for that moment when a verdict is hopefully read aloud in the courtroom. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. And again, go click on the link in the description on this video to go vote in that one-click poll on WFLA.com. You can let us know who won the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial. It's overwhelmingly one-sided. I would imagine it's going to stay overwhelmingly one-sided, but the more votes that we have, the more that we feel like your voices out there are being heard as it relates to this trial and its inevitable outcome. So we'd like to thank you so much for joining us here, folks, on WFLA Now, the very latest on WFLA.com, the WFLA app.